Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
You can join us. Jerry's not going to be here this morning, but Dennis and Bill and Steve and I are here. So we shall talk about something. I think we're going to talk about Dennis's and Bill's painting of backdrops.
Yeah, we were talking painting. Jeez.
We're going to make Dennis go get his picture again. Because if I don't get Dennis talking about something else, he's going to make another tortoise joke, and he's going to run out pretty quick.
Especially since I guess the tortoise actually survived.
I about spit my cereal out when you said no tortoises were harmed in this.
So anyway, Steve, why don't you say hello to everybody this morning?
Well, chat's pretty light this morning, but we got Sheep Boy, Rob T-Man, Dwight Curley, and Hillbilly Railroad. So good morning, guys.
Al Mar just came in.
Who?
Al Mar?
I don't see Al. Oh, there we are. Good morning, Al.
I see him on here just a little bit quicker than YouTube picks it up.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Well, anyway, good morning, guys. We don't have a topic, and we never do.
Oh, yeah, we're going to make a topic. We're going to make Dennis show his painting again.
Well, and Bill's going to have to show us what he's done between, his last update and now.
Yeah, I've made a little progress since last week.
I'll bet.
Well, Dennis, you've got a whole bunch of backdrop painted, it looks like, or started.
Yeah, I do. I've got roughly, 20 feet of sky anyway. So, and you can see I've moved the bench work. That's kind of why I'm disconjointed and sitting where I am right now. So I'm going to get started today on probably this section back here. I'm going to try and get that completed today. That section there that's about 3.5, 4 feet, give or take.
Well, I kind of wish I had started trying to do that before I went and bought mine. But
it's so much easier than people think it is.
Oh, I'm sure
you look at it and you go, "Oh, I could never do that." And the reality is, if you watch some YouTube channels and pause as you go, you will likely end up with something that looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's beautiful.
And it's really, I don't know, if you get really close in, you can see that all it is blobs of paint.
Yeah.
Literally all I'm doing is blobbing paint. And, there's a little bit of a learning curve. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but there's a little bit of learning curve in how you mix the paints to get the colors you want. And then the hardest part I'm having right now is once I get a color I like and you move away from it, reproducing the same color again later, because you might need to do that. Likely you will, and knowing how you got that color is a big part of the trick.
Yeah. Well, I know what you mean about the getting started on it and just trying it, because that's what happened with me with rock painting. I was petrified to do painting of rock, and once I got started doing that, I found out this is simple. There's nothing to it. Yeah. But of course, on the rock, you really don't have to be precise. It's really easy to do rock.
And of course, if you've watched all of my videos and you've seen everything that I've done through the last couple of years, you know that I actually got started in model railroading by being a war gamer first. I did the 28 millimeter figurines. And so I've got literally an army of about 2,000 figurines that I've painted. And so that transitioned to model railroad in a very real, a real way, because how it actually began is my father was a model railroader when I was a small child, but we never had a model railroad. All of his in-scale trains were in the tackle box. And every once in a while, we'd pull them out and look at them. And I think we might have run a circle around in the kitchen floor once. But then later in life, in my probably late 20s, I was looking up ways to create terrain for my war game for the tabletop.
Mhm.
You know, I need to create a hill with some trees on it. He said, you need to look into some model railroad stuff because they know what they're doing. I was like, oh, okay. And I got actually he bought me a magazine, you know, like the next day he showed up with the magazine. I think it was Model Railroader or Model Railroad Craftsman. I was like, whoa. And that began my journey, you know, because I couldn't play the tabletop battle game every day or even every month.
Mhm.
There wasn't another opponent that was within 3 hours of me. And model railroading, I can do that all by myself every day, all day long. So that's probably more than anybody wanted to hear. But you know, the painting part of it and the artistic part of the hobby is what drives me.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the neat things about model railroading. It's got so many facets to it, so many different areas. You've got the electrical and wiring and the technical side of it, and then you've got the artistic side, and then you've got just the laying track or running trains or building kits, or there's so many different things you can take from it. Because like when I was doing airplanes, I found out I liked building them more than I liked flying them.
Yeah.
Well, I
would crash them. That's what would happen to me.
Yeah.
I would build one and crash it and go, wow.
Well, that's what they say about RC airplanes. There's two kinds of RC airplanes, those that have and those that will. And the only time that the ones don't is if you retire it before it does. But everybody was always going to do something stupid and crash one, or you're going to have a mechanical failure of some sort that's going to do it. But I found I liked the artistic part of putting it together and working with my hands more than flying the airplane around. So for me, flying was always the cherry on top. It was the camaraderie with the guys at the field.
Mm-hmm.
Then the build. I could build at home no matter what the weather was. You can't fly, RC airplanes in every kind of weather situation. But like model railroading, you can, as long as you're not outside.
Yeah,
what was your favorite
I'm
plane
sure
that you
there's
ever
not
built?
near as much stress involved in seeing a $1,000 model pull into a spur, drop off a flat car, and then pull away as there would be, okay, I'm getting ready to take this $1,500 airplane 300 feet in the air and hope that I can bring it back down without destroying it.
Well, and for me, the stress wasn't in crashing the plane, because I can always build another airplane. The stress for me was make sure nobody else is involved.
Yeah.
Because you take a 25-pound airplane, and some of them were heavier than that, 30, 40 pounds, and you put a 50 or 60 cc gas engine on it, and you hit somebody with it, you can kill them.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So, that's one reason I got out of it, because safety concerns were kind of waning, and I didn't want to be there when something happened. But you don't want to hit somebody's car. Now, we were always covered with insurance on that in a group insurance setting. But you still don't want to have to deal with it,
Yeah.
personally. You don't want to have to deal with it if something were to happen. So that was for me was always the nervous part of flying, was if the thing gets away from me. And I had one almost did that to me one time, a 25-pound airplane. And that kind of was the start of the downward trend for me in flying. And I stayed in the hobby for several years after that, but I had one that was glitching on me and ended up snap rolling right over my head at the flight line. Well, right behind me were several $1,000 airplanes, several thousand apiece airplanes behind me. Not only that, but the people and all the cars parked back there. And so when it came over my head, I had been fighting it to keep it in the air. And when it actually barrel rolled over the top of my head, that's when I turned it in. I let it. I didn't let it. Well, I say I let it. It was glitching, so I don't know how much control I actually had. But I went the other way with the stick and forced it down as best I could, because I wanted to stop it before it got back and caused trouble.
How many have you crashed, Claude?
Oh, Well, I had one that I must have crashed 5 or 6 times and kept fixing it. And I finally quit flying it because it was so, I couldn't keep it straight enough. There's only so many times you can fix it before it just is so crooked it won't fly straight. It's too much trouble flying. One my friend Ted built that I flew. He never flew it, but he built it. I sold it to one of the guys. In fact, he flew it a couple weeks ago. It's still flying, and it's 10 years old, 10 years plus. But it's an real easy airplane to fly. But I probably crashed. I probably crashed at least a half dozen that were totally destroyed.
What was your favorite?
And I didn't rebuild. I just built new ones. Do I?
What was your favorite one you ever built? Your favorite plane?
Oh, probably my Sopwith triplane because it was a scratch build. I say scratch build. Some people say scratch build has to be you have to draw the plans and then build it. I didn't draw the plans. I took a set of plans, but I cut all the pieces for it myself. It wasn't a kit. And that was the very first one I did. And it was a pretty cool looking airplane. But that was probably my favorite. But I built 4 Fokker D7s. Almost all of my airplanes were World War I airplanes. Not all of them, but most of them were.
Hey, good morning, Sparky. We got Sparky in chat this morning. Excuse me.
So anyway, yeah, John's here with school
Yeah, quite a crew.
Yeah, Steve Anderson's here. Good to see you guys.
Luca River Valley John.
But anyway, now I want to talk about Bill's painting because it's very similar to Dennis's painting.
Similar. I'll show you what I've done since the last show here. Let me get the camera off. A little bit of difference on this. Excuse my paw. Okay, there we go.
Well, he's got skeletons in his attic.
I've done a little bit.
Oh wow!
So
What
I've been doing since yesterday is scratch building the trestle in place. I still got more work to do on it, but I got everything skim coated with the plaster. I've got it carved. I've got it stained. I've done a little bit of track work, painting ties, getting in the dirt ballast. But then since we're talking backdrops, I'll kind of do a step back here. You can kind of see. So I painted this one too last week. So I do more, we were kind of joking before the start of the show on impressionistic. So I just use the paintbrush and just dab to get shapes and then colors. What I find on a lot of paintings that folks do is they overblend colors. Yeah. Dennis did a great job where he didn't mix everything, as he was painting his stuff. It's the same with mine. You dab it on and then you move to another area and you don't try to make it uniform so that you have texture to it and varying colors all the way across. Now, that's what's kept me out of mischief after work each evening this week.
I love that bridge.
Yeah.
See, to me, that's a lot of fun. I had to do my narrow gauge bridge on the front of my mountain. I built in place, and I found it really fun to do that as opposed to building a whole bunch of vents and then trying to set it up. Building it in place lets you do something different, completely unique.
Oh yeah.
Even if it wouldn't really hold what you're running over it, but it still gives you something that you're not going to see in the store.
Yeah, and that's what I think too. There's no engineering principles behind this other than cobble the crap up, and that's kind of what you imagine that they would have done to try to get it over a lower track. Let's see if I can even get a shot. Because the train has to go literally under and through the trestle for a fair distance. And I'm using my 10-wheeler because that's my biggest engine and make sure I've got clearance. And it's tight. It's tight coming through here. If this was a real railroad and the engineer stuck his head out or a hand, it'd be all over for the guy. Because there's like a scale 1 foot clearance on that in a couple of spots, but it makes it. And that's everything else gets through.
That tight clearance is actually very prototypical.
Oh yeah.
Trains. There's the rock cut on the Durango Silverton. You don't want to stick your hand out. There's also the rock tunnel on the Cumberson Toe Tack is the same way. And it's a full tunnel, but you don't want to stick your hand out because the rock is right there.
Yeah.
Just enough room to get through there.
Yep. And then
That'd be
there's
a good
how I
pla-
hid my, there's how I hid the portal. So I've still got more vegetation to put in. Once I get the trestle done, I'll
Nice.
add a few smaller items in here and I'll finish up in the back, but that kind of hides the portal that way. The portal down here, is again hidden by the scenery. And then I've got some super tree material and then a couple of pines that I purposely left some areas in there to kind of put everything to kind of hide it. And when you're looking through it, and I don't know if you can see it through here, you can see the trunks of the trees on the other side of the portal. So again, it gives you that illusion that it's continuing.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good place for a telltale.
Yeah, exactly. A three-sided telltale.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but that is very prototypical of narrow gauge, and of course, Cumberson Toe Tack. There's most of it is under 10 mile an hour speed limit, and not only for the narrow clearances, but also for being on the edge of a cliff. They just don't want to go very fast and disturb too much at one time.
Just keep your hands and head and feet inside the car at all times.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Most definitely. So, Steve, what are you doing?
I ran out of things to do. I was telling Claude before the show that I'm going through post-building depression because I ran out of stuff to do until I get my plumbing appliances. So I'm going to build a caboose. I've still got 3 months, until the triennial. So I'm going to build a caboose.
Cool.
Nice.
I talked with my supplier for the parts, and he's still machining the globe valves for the manifold. So he's doing a whole batch of them at one time. So there's no telling when he's going to get those done. So I've got time to kill. So it's going to be a caboose about the same size as the tender. What I was telling Claude, these trucks are really only temporary. They're bigger. They're really big. I mean, these are 36-inch scale freight wheels, and the arch bar trucks that I'm getting machined for it are much smaller, which is going to lower the tender about 3/4 of an inch, and the wheels won't be as close to the rear of the tender. So this is just temporary. And so with my ideas, hopefully my machinist is going to get the wheels, these tender trucks machined. And if he does, then I'm going to swap them out, put them on the tender, and these trucks will go under the caboose. So I'm just going to build the caboose very similar to what I did with the fuel car. I'm not going to use the redwood. It's going to I scrounged some lumber out from a door place here in Grants Pass, and I'm just going to strip out a lot of wood like I did with the redwood for the car, but it's going to be painted red with a black roof. So it's going to look a lot like the fuel car, but I'll have that ready to go that I can just drop it right on top of the trucks when you get them done. And that'll give me a little extra, excuse me, a little extra storage because, there's not a lot of room in that fuel car to put anything. And during fire season, up at Train Mountain, you're supposed to have firefighting equipment or carry a fire gun that they supply. It's a gondola that's got a backpack pump sprayer with 5 gallons of water and some extra gallon jugs and a Pulaski. And they want you to drag that around in the summertime, which is an extra, with the water, probably another 300 pounds. And I can get away with a lot less weight if I do a caboose to carry the firefighting equipment. Plus it'll look cool. And but yeah, I'm running out. I don't have anything to do, and it's like, oh crap. So I'm going to build a caboose.
So what model caboose are you building?
I'm going to do a bobber, so not a bobber, but something along the lines of this guy. It's an old plastic thing, something like that. Except it's just going to have the regular trucks on it, and these are going to be big for it. But I've also got another pair of arch bar trucks that are not machined at all. They're just metal castings. That my machinist guys, he's gonna put those together and build them for me. But God knows when he's going to get those done. So I can slap these trucks on the caboose in the meantime. So
Heath wants
Do you
to
plan
know
on
if it's a
getting some
toilet
arch
seat.
bars for it eventually, or are you going to go with the Bettendorfs?
say that again. I did
Or-
first part.
Are you planning on getting some arch bar trucks for it eventually, or are you going to make the Bettendorfs like
You mean for the tender or the
for the
caboose?
caboose?
Well, like I said, I've got a pair of arch bar trucks that can be machined for that. But I don't know when my machinist guy's ever going to get to those. So I can stick these under the caboose in the meantime. And then, because it would look better with the arch bars. These Bettendorfs really don't look that great. I wanted to go with the arch bars for the whole train, but I need brakes. And unfortunately, there aren't very many suppliers that even had arch bars with brakes as an option. There was one called Cannonball that did, but they're not doing them right now because of they're having a hard time getting parts for it, and the demand for them isn't to the point where they want to make them with brakes. So that's not an option. So the only trucks I can get with brakes are Bettendorf, and I've got to have brakes on it. So that's kind of a trade-off. Fuel car is going to end up having the Bettendorfs on it, indefinitely, unless somebody starts building arch bars with brakes. And
So Heath wants to know if it's a toilet seat on top of the BoxCar.
Yeah, it is. No, that's Claude's seat. That's where Claude's going to sit.
Oh, then that'll be handy.
It's actually it's comfortable, but it's like sitting on a horse. It's like, your legs are straddling that car, and it's seriously, it's like sitting on a horse. But it's comfortable. You'll do pretty good.
You hope.
Well,
they'll be throwing pine cones at you otherwise.
But your hands, you can reach behind there through that hatch right to the cooler with the beer. So you should.
Oh, there you go.
You should be pretty happy. You should be pretty comfortable.
Well, seeing if I tie strings on the necks of the beers before we start, then I don't have to reach back there. I can just pull them up.
Well, that's true. Yeah, stringer of.
You got to think ahead, man.
Just pull them out and take it off. Yeah, okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah, you got to think ahead.
But no, that's. I got 3 months to go, so I got time to kill. It's not going to take that long to plumb this thing once I get all my appliances, and it's ready to go. But I'm out of work.
Okay, Dennis has a question. Since we wouldn't stop talking, so he can ask it.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah, you can, but it depends on some of them, because on the arch bars, there's not a lot of room to mount the brake rigging on them. You can, but it's better to do it, when you're building the trucks. They probably could. Actually, the ones that I've got to get built, I probably could have him build them with brakes. That's actually not a bad idea.
Rob says you should have made it a cattle car.
I thought about that. I thought about it, but it was like, that's just too much work. But Claude had the idea of a reefer, and it's like, yep, that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, that was more for John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bernard wanted to know if that was going to be where is it now? A 5-window or a cupola on the caboose?
It's going to be a cupola.
There you go.
And Heath says, if Claude's riding on the car, shouldn't it be a monkey car?
That or
it's going to be a turtle car.
Turtle car, yeah. By the way, update on the tortoise that I tried to do demise. It still works. So we got all the internals checked on it and everything. It's going back on the layout until it gives us a good. Which it'll probably quit working as soon as I get it fully installed again. But right now it works. So it's going to go
Steve
back.
wants to know if the cupola in the caboose is going to be a cooler. The answer to that would be no, because the cooler's going in the reefer.
Yeah.
Right underneath this back hatch, so the Claude can just reach in and grab his beverage.
Okay, here you go, Bill. He wants I want you to introduce us to your friend sitting on the shelf. And I want to know why he's not in the closet instead on the shelf.
What friend and what shelf?
Yeah, what am I? I'm missing something.
The skeleton
Oh,
that should be in the closet is up on the shelf.
oh yeah. There he is.
Oh, okay.
He's up there hiding.
So he is. He's guarding the model railroad stuff and all of the totes.
That's the last person that tried to mess with your trains.
Yeah, affectionately known as Bones. Star Trek homage and all that good stuff. He actually
figured you cut him.
where the other Halloween stuff is stored in another shelf on that side of the garage, so he's up there.
I figured maybe it was somebody was poking around in your trains and you caught them, and that's the result. Anyway, so now you know. What else are they talking about over here?
Let's see. What have I missed?
That's the problem. If I get talking, I don't see the chat.
Well, let's see. Nathan DeLay asked something. Let's see. Where was it? What he said. Probably anything I can find cheap to scratch build on Heath, although I have wanted reading and northern stuff that I haven't got. Heath. Okay, what are they talking? What are you guys talking about?
He's talking about locomotives, because that's what Nathan does, is gets old locomotives and fixes them up.
Right.
Gets them running again.
Yeah, he's been making some pretty cool cab forward locomotives.
Wow.
I saw his last video he pumped out here a day or two ago. Really cool.
We'll have to go
Really
look at it. I haven't
creative.
seen that one. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. Steve, you should have made a flat car with a pipe load for his car to ride on.
Well, flat car might be in the future. You never know.
Well, that's what I was telling Steve. I said, you keep adding cars to this train, it may not pull out of the station.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
was
limited
wondering
too on what I can carry in my truck and what I can store on the racks too. So
how many do
flat
you
car
think it
would
can be
kind
able
of.
to pull, Steve?
What's that?
How many cars do you think it'll be able to pull?
That's a good question. On flat ground, it would pull really good. You could probably pull 4 or 5 cars with 3 or 4 adults, maybe more. But any kind of a grade, it depends on the weight on the locomotive. Because you got to, the more weight you can get on those drivers, the better. But these Americans are not known for being able to pull a lot.
Well, there's not a lot of flat ground there either.
Yeah, and Train Mountain, it's not flat. The top of it around, the station turntable area is flat. It's not a long run. It's not a big loop. A lot of the grades up there are there's 3%, a lot of 2%, lots of 1s and 1.5. So we're not really going to know until we try it.
Yeah. So it's basically trial and error. You're hooking up until you get to the point where you're not moving anymore.
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll be up there with a test. When I finally get this thing steaming, I'll be hopefully heading over there with Tim Parks with his train, and we'll do a test. Hook whatever we can up behind this and see what it'll pull with Tim behind me. And if I stall out, then he can shove me. But I'm realistically, I'm guessing it'll probably pull what I'm going to build myself and maybe one rider, 1 or 2. if I'm lucky. I've tried to make the locomotive as heavy as I can, put as much brass and weight on it as I can. There's not a lot of places to hide any weight, but it's pretty heavy. So hopefully it'll pull. But like I said, I'm not going to know until I actually get it out on the track.
You know, Rob says if it slips going uphill, then okay, everyone off and push.
That happens.
If you want to get back, that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, we went up there with Tim Parks when he first got his mogul, and I had the gas switcher, and he kept stalling out on the hill, and he would not let me push him. He was not going to, with me bugging him for the rest of his life that I had to shove him up the mountain. So he crawled, and there was some times where he was pushing with his kind of getting his feet to go, but and if you get any wet rail up there, you're dead in the water. If there's any moisture on the rail, there's also something about the steel rail versus aluminum. The aluminum rail you'll get more traction on the steel wheels with aluminum rail, but as soon as you get on steel, any moisture, man, they'll slip. So that's going to be an issue too. So
He wants to know what's the ride on weight limit of the train.
I mean, how much the car will hold?
Yeah. How much? What's the weight limit of riders?
Oh, there isn't one. It's whatever the car will hold. So you could put a huge person on it. It doesn't matter.
Fred wants to know if you know what it weighs, and I'm assuming he's talking about the engine.
I'm guessing probably loaded with a full boiler and everything on. I'm guessing probably about 400 pounds would be ballpark weight.
More than I would have thought it would have weighed.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. It's going to be somewhere between 350 and 400 would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, looking at it on video, I kept thinking it was bigger than it was, and he'd stick his hand down there next to it and show me something, and it's like, man, that thing's tiny.
It's not very big.
It almost looks like it's just a little bit bigger than G scale at sometimes when he's got his hand down there.
Well, and when you're sitting on this thing and looking down, it looks a long way down.
Yeah.
But I may, if I made this seat any lower, then my knees are up near my chin. And if I made it any higher, I couldn't reach down into the cab. So it's kind of I tested different heights, and this was the most comfortable if you can actually be comfortable to be able to, not kill my knees, not kill my back, but still be able to reach stuff.
You're running a live steam train. You don't get
I mean, the firebox door is really low. I put a chain on it to be able to open it, to be able to see. But in order to look in, I have to lean way back just to be able to see the flame in the firebox. But the gauge is pretty well visible. The throttle is a little low, but it's not too bad. The hard part that's going to be reaching is the brake handle. That's going to have to be on the left side of the cab on the running board. And so that's going to be a little issue reaching the brake handle, but it's doable. But I got my injector for it, which is right. It's a little bitty tiny thing. That little bugger is $270. It might as well be made out of gold. I don't think it weighs a couple of ounces. It's just tiny.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you had to pay to have someone machine that because you can't buy it off the shelf. Is that what?
Oh yeah, you can. So yeah, there's a couple companies that make injectors.
Oh really?
I've got here. Let me show you. I've got 3 that John had. I'm going to end up selling them, but this is a super scale injector. This is brand new, but if you look at them compared in size, this is how they compare in size. And I'm limited in room that I've got to be able to put this injector. This is really too big. I found out that if you use a larger injector on these smaller boilers, they put water in it too fast, and it ends up cooling off the boiler. Those big injectors are really efficient, and but they said they're better off with the smaller injector because it puts in a lot of water a little at a time, so you're not cooling off that boiler. So I'm gonna sell off the other injectors, and this one's going to be easier to find room to put it in. It runs off 1/4-inch tubing as opposed to 5/16, and 5/16 tubing is really hard to work with. Plus, it's hard to find.
Heath wants to know if you still have your N-scale layout.
I do. And I actually cleaned it off so it works again. It was covered in about 5 inches of dust. But no, I still got it. It's in there. Gus is in there laying in front of the door. So it's just around the corner. I still have it. And I'll get back into that as soon as I get this thing done and running, then I'll get back into the other one. But
Bernard said he made it to the Wendover Engage show and the Inola Guy Hanger Little Boy Amazing Model layout. I'm not sure where the commas need to be in there, but well, the Wendover Engage show, I know you said you were going to a show last week. I don't know this other one. Inola, is that an Enola Gay or Enola Guy? And then little boy, I'm not sure what he's talking about there.
I think that would be one of the bombs they dropped on Hiroshima, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah. And it was the Enola Gay. And I don't know if the guy's playing off those words with this or if he typed them. Knowing Bernard, he mistyped them, but.
Well, let's see. Steve Anderson says I could use a mirror for the firebox. Yeah, you could do that. And actually, Fred Lisbedy is a friend of ours too. He can't see his sight glass really well in his cab, and he's got a mirror behind it so he can see the water in his sight glass. So actually, that's true. Idea. And he says, "Why do you need brakes?" And Joe says, "Brakes, just drag your feet." Yeah, and that's funny because up at Train Mountain, every once in a while you'll see grooves along the side of the track that people use their feet. You dig into the gravel.
Is it a standard though that you have brakes in order to operate up there? I'm assuming.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, some way of stopping. Yeah.
Well, especially with those grades, I would think.
Yeah. If you've got, the electric locomotives, believe it or not, have dynamic braking. So you can use that for braking. The gas ones, the hydraulic ones, you don't really need brakes unless you've got a super heavy train. And I've never needed them. With the switcher I had, Tim and I at one point at the ops meet, I think we were pulling 18 cars. Plus Tim and me, and Tim's not a small guy, and
probably my size.
We barely made it up to 3% grade. Tim had to be off and kind of helping a little bit. Going downhill, you could stop the train, but not real quick. But brakes are really a good idea up there because, like I said, it's Train Mountain for a reason. Lots of grades.
Al says put brake pads on your shoes.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to know is if somebody sticks their feet out and makes ruts in the ballast, do they have to go back and rake it up?
You should. I mean, you should, but They usually
There you
don't.
go.
Usually don't.
Yeah.
So do you see a lot of those kind of ruts where somebody has used their feet for brakes?
Yeah, it's pretty common.
Well, I would imagine it's very tempting to do that. Just if you have a spot where you can't get on the brakes quick enough or something, the first thing you think of is stick your feet down.
Well, sometimes people tend to run a little faster than they should, and they don't pay attention to the grades. They have mile markers up there. They're set out. They're spaced at 105 feet apart, so that when you're traveling, you count off 10 seconds between the mile posts, and you're running at the recommended 7 miles an hour. And the mile posts have the division that you're running on the top, and then you have the grade, or you have what's the other one? But anyway, each one shows the grade, between those 2 mile posts. So if somebody's not paying attention to that, you're going down a 2% grade, and you're needing to stop, it's going to take a while, and they don't anticipate the stopping distance. So that's where you're seeing those ruts.
Yeah.
Because
Rob wants to know, what if your caboose comes loose going uphill?
Doesn't matter. They got safety chains.
Yeah,
those are required too. Safety chains or safety cables, because they have had runaways because people didn't put a chain on.
Yeah, and a runaway can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, at the top of the mountain, it's about 3 miles from the top down to the bottom, and it's all downhill. So yeah, that would be a bad thing, especially if you're, because it's really it's all one direction. There's one spot that's bi-directional, but you're basically running in one direction. So if somebody loses a car and somebody's following, you're going to have that car coming back at you. So that they take that very seriously. But you got to have safety chains.
Yeah, well, that'd be like a runaway airplane. I mean, it's yeah. Except if you're in the tracks, it's coming right after you.
Yeah, and it
from what I've
coming
seen
down the mountain pretty fast.
Yeah, because from what I've seen of the track, the radiuses are pretty large, and as small as the cars are, I wouldn't think they would want to, unless they got going really, really fast. I guess they might come off the track, but
yeah, I doubt it. They
for the most part, they're going to stay on the track.
Yeah, they might hit a switch and probably come off at a switch, a facing point switch. But yeah, they come all the way down. I don't think they'd come off the rail because the radiuses are pretty big.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, what else are they saying?
Oh, Steve Anderson wants to know, so how does it feel going through a helix to get to the upper tracks? He's asking you that.
He's asking me.
Yeah.
I've never gone through a helix.
Yeah.
But Claude has. You've gone through a helix.
I'm setting a helix.
You got stuck in your helix.
I didn't get stuck, but I can see how it happened.
Yeah, you did.
No, there's no helix up there, Steve.
We don't have a helix. There used to be a tunnel, but they had to daylight it.
Yeah. Okay, he's got another question. Do the brakes work like train brakes, where if they lose air, they lock up?
No. Well, yeah, no. There are different kind of brakes. The most common one are vacuum brakes, which these are. And so no, there's nothing like that. But you can put automatic brakes on these. They're very expensive, very complicated, and not very many guys do it. But yeah, those will set up. They're pretty much set up like a regular. That each car's got a reservoir, and if they're separated, you will apply the brakes. But
Yeah, start to say you gotta have a tank on each one of them to hold the air pressure.
Right. A lot of guys have steam brakes on the locomotives, and they'll run steam brakes to the tender. But the most common is vacuum brakes, and they've got
The vacuum brakes, you draw a vacuum to apply. Is that how that works?
Yeah, there's a okay. You've got the manifold off the boiler with all the valves for the appliances, and one of them runs a steam line to the brake stand. It's got a little handle on it, and then that steam line runs to this little guy. I think it's right here. It looks like this. It's really tiny. It's about the diameter of a pencil. And your steam line runs through the top and exhausts out this orifice right here. And this is your brake line. So this runs out to your brake line. This creates the vacuum.
The Venturi effect, yeah.
Yeah, so this runs off the locomotive, which will be mounted on the locomotive, off the brake, and between this and the train line, I've got you can't see it, but I've got a vacuum gauge, so that when you use the brake stand to apply the brakes, you'll see the vacuum gauge jump to show you that you got brakes. But it's got just a little. I don't know what you call it, but it's a vacuum brake cylinder for like it's off the shelf automotive that just applies the brake rigging underneath the car.
So it'd be real similar to how the old windshield wipers worked on your early vehicles.
Yeah,
Similar.
yeah, along the same idea, but it's pretty simple. And it's pretty effective, and they work really good.
John had to leave. He's got to go do taxes.
Uh-oh. I just dropped my tax
See you later,
yesterday. Jeez.
Oh, what else we got here?
Hey,
Our train driver's got to go.
we got Ethan here, train builder. He's got to run to work, but wanted to say hi.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, Evan, I don't know if you remember, he's the one that's doing the Thomas train.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah,
He just finished up his Anna and Clarabelle cars.
Well, we got the other one done too.
Yeah. Yeah, he just did an update that he was pulling both cars behind Thomas. And he's running 1-inch scale on that thing, which is a lot smaller. Those are not very big.
Bernard says semi-brake cans, Steve.
Semi-brake
cans. I'm not sure what that means.
Semi-brake.
Bernard's being very cryptic today.
Yeah, what do you mean, Bernard?
I think it's that dry mountain air or desert air.
Well, yeah, Evan, we're gonna have to get together at the end of in the fall down in Sacramento, so you can bring Thomas to the Sacramento Valley Live Steamers, and we can meet up and compare notes. Heath, I am 7.5 inch. Not 7.25. I don't know what the difference is. A lot of clubs on the East Coast are 7.25, and West Coast is 7.5. That's the most common, but I don't know why that gauge is different. I think it had something to do with measurements from coming over from Europe. But yeah, I'm 7.5 inch. Let's see. It's kind of, Evan said it's kind of like balancing on a kid's toy. Yeah. I mean, they're only about that big. I mean, Thomas is, correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, but it's only, he's probably, 30 inches long, maybe 12 inches tall, something like that. They're not very big. And they run off, now, Evan, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it 4.25 inch gauge? Because I know in Europe it's 5. Let's see. If,
I was thinking they were 7.5 inch. He's not running 7.5 inch.
well, he's running both. He's got inch scale and 1.5 scale. Well, actually, he's got 2.5 scale because he's got that narrow gauge. But that runs off 7.5 inch gauge track, but it's scaled at 2.5 inches to the foot.
So it makes it a narrow gauge.
Yeah, and his 1 inch is 1 inch to the foot. Thomas is 1 inch scale, 1 inch to the foot.
Oh, okay.
This is 1.5
I wasn't paying that much attention, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't either.
Let's see. He says Thomas is 28 inches long, 13 inches tall. Okay.
He's 5-inch gauge.
Oh, okay. You're fine. That's right, because you got that for. Okay, that's right. That's a European kit. That's right. You are 5 gauge. Well, how can you run that at on the 4.25 inch? How do you run that on a club track then, Evan? If that's 5 inch metric, UK gauge. Okay. Hey, Rusty. Got passing by you.
Hey, Rusty. Good to see you. We're discussing train builders.
Oh, so you can't. Okay. You can't run him on a truck. Okay, that makes sense.
He just takes the track with him everywhere he goes.
Yeah. Well, he's got portable snap track that he sets up at his house.
Yeah.
That must be a pain in the butt.
Oh, he wants to know if anybody has 7.5 inch narrow gauge trains. He thinks that would be interesting.
Yes, check it out on YouTube. They're all over the place, and they're big.
Yeah. And they're 2.5 inch scale, right? So.
Oh yeah, and it makes a big difference. It's twice the size of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger.
That's what I'd have to have if I was doing live steam.
And there's some guys actually have 3.5 inch to the foot.
Oh, wow.
So that's even bigger.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, but I would think that start causing a problem on clearances on some of the club.
Not really. No, there's generally it's probably more the narrow track and the wide train want to rock a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's true because you got people with legs hanging off the side and arms hanging off the side. They probably have plenty of clearance on everything. Bernard, I don't know if he does or not.
My guess is probably not. He probably sold that.
I would imagine for $15,000 for what he had, all the stuff he had, it probably didn't last. Although, it's a small clientele.
Yeah.
Customer base, not customer base, but just buying base that you'd be trying to sell to. Mm-hmm. And with the way economics are right now, a lot of that may scare a lot of people too.
Well, just the track. I mean, he had almost 3,000 feet of track.
Yeah.
And that stuff's going for about $1.50 a foot.
And all the cars that he had, mm-hmm. and of course working steam engine, but it looked to me the picture looked a little bit rough, like it was going to probably need some serious work on it.
Could be.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but it could be running fine, but it sure looked pretty rough. But if he left it outside all the time, mm-hmm. that would account for that because, we get all 4 seasons here. So mm-hmm. If it was sitting outside, it's going to show it real quick.
Oh, and picking up something like that secondhand, you really want to do your homework because you can be buying a headache.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, particularly a boiler. That's the worst part. If you've got a boiler issue, that's to purchase it new, you're talking, depending on the boiler, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for a boiler. And if you've got one to rebuild, you're still looking at probably $3,000 or $4,000 to rebuild a boiler. So, you might be buying a headache,
Yeah.
So you really gotta, if you're picking up a secondhand steamer, you really need to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is a steam club here in the state. You just don't hear about it. It's not anywhere close to Tulsa. I know that. My guess is that guy, he lived down in Muskogee. He had it on his own property because he had so much track. you wouldn't have that if you were going to a club and running.
Steve wants to know if I'm going to leave the cupola open so Gus can have a bed to lay in. I don't think he'd stay in it.
No, I don't think he would either.
Yeah, I don't think Mama would let me take him on the train anyway.
Heath wants to know when I'm going to build one. I'm not, Heath. Not going to. Like I say, there's not any place around here to run it, so I'd have to drive. Like Steve does. I'd have to drive somewhere to do it, and it just no. Besides that, I just retired, so income is not nearly as much as it used to be. So I don't have the money to throw into something like that.
So Steve, on your caboose, would you make the cupola hinged for access, or the whole roof just come off?
I'm just gonna have the whole roof come off, just like the fuel car, just lift right off. And I'll use it for just extra storage and looking cool. It should be pretty simple to build. I mean, I did the fuel car in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Are you getting ready to start that? Or you?
Oh yeah, I already got the wood.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll be starting that probably. Well, at least getting it started this week coming up. So I want to have it ready. If I'm going to do it, just get it ready so that whenever I get trucks freed up, I can just stick it on the trucks and ready to go. Should look cool with, little red caboose on it.
Yeah. Okay. Should look good.
Yeah, it should look good.
Well,
I don't think you can ride on it though, Claude.
I don't want to ride on the caboose. I'll ride on the reefer where the refreshments are.
There you go. And that's more comfortable too.
Well, it sits up high enough so my legs will have some place to go.
Well, the only problem is you'll be sitting right behind me and you could be throwing things on the back of my head.
I will be, yes. I will bring a tree branch and be mushing you like a sled dog.
Let's see. He asked if I got another trailer to have room for the new cars. I'm going to just do it so I can put everything in the back of my truck. And that's why an extra car, a flat car, would be stretching things. Is I've got enough room for the caboose. Because anything that I can put on these stands will fit in the back of my truck. So I've got the room on the other stand for I can build a caboose. I can build a 32-inch caboose. So, but anything else, then I have an issue of hauling it.
Bernard says it's Steve's new welder up channel.
My welder up channel. I'm not a good welder. I'm a good grinder.
So welding up is appropriate, right? You just
I can weld it real
that
good.
bead way up there, huh?
I won't show it to anybody until I grind it down and paint it. Then it looks fine. Hey, the whole idea, as long as it doesn't fall apart.
Oh,
Let's see. Sparky says, Steve, with friends like Claude, well, I think you need a new friend.
That could be. That could be.
Yeah, he could ride on someone else's train. We'll have Tim Parks up there with his train. So regardless, we'll get Claude around.
I'll throw tortoises at him or something.
Yeah, they don't have tortoises up there, so
Tortoises with holes in the top.
there's no tortoises.
Yeah, I'll drill them up real nice first. They'll be Swiss tortoises. Yeah. Well, guys, that's the end of the hour.
Another fun Saturday.
I didn't sleep last night. Anyway, yeah, thanks for showing up, guys. Enjoyed it. You guys have a great rest of the weekend and a good week next week. And I don't know if we're going to be doing a beans or not. We might. I haven't looked that far ahead yet.
What day do you do beans on? Is there a specific day?
No, we just pick a day. If you've got a day you can be there, let me know. We can do it then.
Okay. I know I was looking for beans on Monday or Tuesday, the week that I took my little vacation. And then, found out that you guys were doing it on the morning that we were leaving. So if I'd have known that, I probably could have adjusted our leave time and
No. I'm not going to be the reason that you tell your wife you have to change vacation time.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have changed. The only thing it would have changed was when we left.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's a pretty good drive for you guys from Fort Supply all the way over to Benton.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. I can't remember exactly what it is, but
yeah, it's a pretty good drive for you guys. Anyway, yeah, just let me know, and we can always do that. It's easy to do a day.
Yeah.
About the only thing I do anymore where I'm away from the house is playing golf. So, and I don't do that very often. But anyway, good to see everybody. Bill, Dennis, Steve.
Yep.
See you guys later.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
showing up,
Take care
guys.
all.
Later.